This also shows the favoritism shown by some policemen to my neighbors. Some of this stems from the lawsuit that I had filed in 1997 and the statements I had made that the Beavercreek police is a joke here in Ohio. And other police agencies had said the same thing to me and my son. Also, there were several times where I had to call the Beavercreek, Ohio police to stand by where the people I hired was working on my property because the neighbors would start making threats against the workers. I was told by the neighbors to the east that the neighbors across the street standing with them that veterans get too many benefits. Also, after the neighbors saw a priest in our driveway, the neighbors to the east said that the Catholic religion was the religion of the devil. In 2008, I placed a bumper sticker on my truck that said veterans for a certain candidate. 2 days later, the neighbors to the east hung a noose in their backyard. I called the Beavercreek police and was told by now retired police chief there was no violation and they would not do anything about it. In 2008, because of what was happening with the neighbors to the east and the neighbor across the street, things escalated. For over 20 years, I could cut up leaves with a mulching mower and blow them out in the street. This is done all over Beavercreek. Now the neighbor on the east and across the street started to complain about these mulched up leaves. These leaves were barely 4 inches wide and 6 feet long, but both neighbors to the east and across the street would not only blow their whole leaves in the street, but also blow them into the right-of-way that is connected to my property. This came to the point where I have a fence totally around my yard, but the neighbor to the east tries to blow leaves under the fence onto my property. The wind blows from the west, so when the wind carries the leaves to the east in that neighbor's yard, why is he blowing them back to the west? The neighbor across the street not only blows his leaves into my driveway and right-of-way, he also blows leaves from the right-of-way to the right-of-way from an unoccupied house across the street. Sometimes that neighbor would put leaves on a tarp and drag them with his lawnmower to a privately owned field that is behind his house. In 2008 and 2009, 25-foot ruts started showing up in the right-of-way that is connected to my property. When I approached the police and the manager of the city of Beavercreek about the problem, I was told that you can park in or on any right-of-way in the city of Beavercreek unless you have to cross a curb or a sidewalk. So I told the city manager and some city council members that I would be parking in their right-of-way. All of a sudden I received a phone call from the city manager. He said they were going to put up 2 no parking signs in my right-of-way. There is still one corner of the right-of-way to the east that the neighbor to the east runs through and leaves mud holes. A right-of-way is a piece of property that is owned by the city and not by the owner of the property that the right-of-way connects to, and the property owner does not pay taxes on that piece of land. But the owner of the property must maintain that right-of-way according to the city of Beavercreek. The neighbor on the east and the neighbor across the street were upset that there were no parking signs placed in my right-of-way. After the problem started in 2008, my tail lights were shot out of one of my vehicles, objects were thrown onto my lawn that would damage my lawnmower, but I have my lawnmower set on high. When I was having some work done on my house in 2009, some potpourri was found in my front porch light. I was told that if I would have left the porch light on for a long amount of time, there was a possibility that it could have caught the potpourri on fire and burnt down my house. My mailbox was damaged. All of these things occurred after 2008. In 2009, my attorney tried to get an agreement that the neighbor to the east and their friends would leave us alone and we would do the same, even though we were not doing anything to these people. That's just what you have to put in an agreement, and that was fine with us. The domestic relations court judge by the name of Stephen Hurley accepted the agreement and issued it as a court order. When the neighbors to the east violated that order, we appeared in domestic relations court, and Judge Stephen Hurley said he had no jurisdiction over this case. If that is true, then why did he issue the previous agreement as a court order? My attorney said he had never heard, seen anything like this. Here we go again with the political prostitutes of Greene County. This shows favoritism and influence from the city of Beavercreek. I've just said the words political prostitute. I heard that some years ago from people in Fairborn, Ohio, pertaining to the politicians in Greene County and the court system. So I'm not the first, and I'm definitely not the only one, and probably not the only one in the future that will be using those words. Also, this Judge Hurley, back in 2008, when I was threatened by the neighbor next door and he had to go to Fairborn Court, I went to county court to get a civil protection order in domestic relations, and Judge Hurley said, oh, this is the first time he's threatened you, so I'm not going to give you a CPO. That is ridiculous. More about Judge Hurley later. I will continue this on the next video.